So in this video, we are going to be going over how you can improve and hopefully master every weapon in Brawlhalla. Now, there's of course some very niche things that you could say are super advanced. I'm kind of finding a bridge between something that is still beginner friendly, but also is something you're going to be seeing used by higher level players. So I like to think that this video will be for everyone. Nonetheless, I hope you enjoy and make sure to subscribe. On sword, most of your damage is going to come off of doing D-Light combos, right? Depending on what health they're at, you might do D-Light recovery, you might do a D-Light dare, or if you want to push them away, you could do a D-Light side air. But we want to find a way to get even more damage off of sword, and the best way to do that is a D-Light ground pound. In order to get it true, you have to hit your D-Light super close, and if you can do this and they have no dodge, you can do D-Light ground pound into GC D-Light ground pound Sair. Gauntlets are another weapon that has a super useful D-Light where you have tons of true combos, so you have to make sure you're optimizing which follow-up you do. If it's really early health and you're looking to start a combo or push them away, then you can do D-Light into N-Light. At a certain point though, you're not going to be able to do N-Light anymore because they get popped up too high. However, something that's available from 0 health until basically when they die is D-Light Dare. This is good for 2v2s and team combos, but also if you want to put them in the air, then off of that you could get a side light. You could go for even, let's say, D-Light Dare. Recovery is an option. It just kind of depends on the situation. Another good damage builder or KO helper sort of follow-up is the best way to put it, is doing a side light after your down light. Side light will put them high up in the air, and then off of side light, what you can end up getting if the opponent is to, let's say in this case, dodge right, you hit your down light, side light, they dodge right, you're going to be getting earlier KOs because sidelight gives that vertical advantage each time you hit it. Now, say your opponent's pretty hurt, but you don't want to rely on reading off of sidelight, or you know that a downlight recovery isn't going to kill yet. What you can do instead then is actually downlight side air, and the positioning it'll give you is insane. As you can see, now the opponent is all the way down there, and that's like super powerful for gauntlets. It's actually a pretty easy edge guard sometimes. And finally, the kill option of gauntlets in the combo. If you can hit it on the ground, then, I mean, obviously you want to do that. But of course, something people still do a lot of is gravity canceling it. It's kind of like sword D-Light where you can bait people, and then off of that, just go straight into the chase dodge recovery. So on axe, it's very important to know where your sidelight will send them. The most common positioning you're going to get is where you can do a nair right after, which is probably the most optimal in a lot of cases. With that being said, if you hit it super close, you actually can do sidelight dare, true. You can also do sidelight D-Light. And then if you notice that your opponent has no dodge and you want to kill, you don't want to rely just on flying around and, side airing at super late health. What you can do is if you hit that sidelight, they got no dodge, 2 frames, they can't jump it. It's actually really strong. One step further though, off of the sidelight, is doing sidelight nair, and then if you're on a map that has platforms, knowing when you can do a D-Light. It's pretty easy because the positioning of the nair actually sets you up super nicely right onto the platform. As you can see, it can be 1 frame, but also if you're playing a character like Jala, which is actually a really strong choice right now, you can get that true. Straight up, the best tips I can give for spear mastery is honestly just knowing how good nair and recovery are. Even exhausted recovery is super good. It's kind of hard to track down, and the height that you get off of it makes it very hard to punish too if someone's below you. Personally, I think spear players are probably the hardest to fight in 2s just because of these options alone. Another thing to note though is that if you do catch someone's dodge with the side light, just like axe where you can do a ledge cancel, spear has something very similar where you can do a triple D-Light. Now, it depends on the map whether you have to do the GC first or you can save it and do it second. But for dojo, you actually can land on the platform first, which in my opinion makes it even a little easier. This will allow you to get kills way earlier than doing a double D-Light, and it's just one of those things where if you know how to do it, use it because it actually is super good. I think constant movement is what makes cannon super deadly. Every single move that you can do has some level of drift, right? And it positions you sometimes in very weird spots. But if you're looking to level up your cannon, I would say finding ways to use sidelight is so important. Because off of sidelight alone, right, you can get strings like that, the sidelight Sair recovery. Also, if you're catching dodges or landings, then you can do dare off of it, and then that can set up into offstage scenarios where you can just obliterate them with like a dare and ground pound. It's just a move, I think, that gets a little overlooked sometimes because you have such a powerful move in N-Light as well, which has its time and place, but I think it's one of those things where it's a slight optimization when someone's floating down on you, right? and you catch their dodge with a side light instead of an end light, and it ends up leading into more at later healths, especially because if we turn up the damage, actually, let's say, 120, right? You're not going to be able to really follow up off a cannon end light. Versus the side light, you can follow up off of it. And just to prove it to you, right, it's just as guaranteed as it was when I was at like 60 health. I think a common complaint with blasters right now is the fact that killing with it can feel pretty bad, right? Your main option is doing a D-light into recovery, and a GCD light can be pretty good, but if you miss it, then you're just gonna get eaten alive by a string or some sort of combo, right? And a lot of people, especially the higher level you get, they know what's gonna kill and what's not. And what ends up happening for high level blaster players, the all three of them, that are out there, they end up looking for moves like Sair, and maybe they're fortunate to catch a dare and get a Sair true off of it. So instead of hunting for D-light, which is somewhat punishable, albeit it still is like pretty good, you can space out and look for side light and then do a recovery off of that instead. Now, depending on the distance you are, if you're close, then you're going to want to chase dodge it, right? Or if you're a little farther away, and I think this is slightly harder, but you would dash jump. Now, to answer your next question, yes, this kills at the exact same health that D-Light Recovery does, literally starting at the exact same health. So you need to just make sure you're aware of when your opponent does and does not have a dodge, because this could definitely determine how much of a lead you take in a game, or if you allow your opponent to come back. Now on bow, it's all about side light. Right there is like the normal range you would hit them, but you also, let's say, dash into it, then you're going to be a lot closer with it. This opens up a ton of different follow-ups. Now, of course, the normal range, you're going to be doing something like D-Light. If you were to dash into it and be really close, you actually can hit End Light True. Another good option is if you catch them close, you could do a dare. If you were to hit someone with a side light off a platform, a lot of the times it feels like you can't really do anything off of it. However, Nair is actually true. Another good follow-up when you're knocking someone off the stage with bow's side light is to chase dodge into a recovery. It doesn't have to be a chase dodge, but the point is recovery right after. It can catch that jump option, and I've seen players like Impalo use this a lot. Now, the final thing I'll mention with bow's sidelight is that depending on what character you have, you can do different sorts of sigs. In this case, the sidelight's going to send them off stage, and then I can try for an end sig after to catch the jump instead of doing a recovery. Figuring out ways to utilize the SIGs off of bow's sidelight is insane, because bow is a weapon that struggles to kill very badly if you can't incorporate your signatures. So Battle Boots D-Light is incredible because every single move can be true off of it. Now, remember that I said D-Light is true into every move. This even means ground pound can be true if you do D-Light into ground pound on the wall. Obviously, super situational, but it's one of those tips that can take your boots to the next level. On hammer, there's two main points. The first being that sidelight is an incredibly good move to just kind of throw out and use. And depending on how you use it, whether you dash it or not, how far you are, the setup, like angle and position is totally different. So make sure you're kind of practiced and you go in training mode and know everything about it. Now, the first punish I want to show you is a gravity cancel D-Light into a Nair, jump recovery, chase dodge down, reverse dare. It sounds like a lot, but really once you do it a few times, it's super easy. Just like that. The second I want to talk about is one that I've kind of messed around with and done different variants of, but it's basically D-Light Sair into another D-Light Sair. That might sound stupid, but hear me out. I've literally seen kind of do this on numerous occasions. Now, the first D-Light Sair, what you want to do is you want to do the D-Light, then chase dodge diagonal up and hit your Sair. From there, based on the position the Sair will leave the opponent, you'll be able to do a normal D-Light into Sair. I've been messing around with this combo a lot, so another kind of variation I found is one where you actually can get the Sair, D-Light Sair true. And that's basically if you hit the D-Light, then you chase dodge around and do the Sair. I'll show you. Like so. All right, the most simple tip on this list, but at the same time, one that I've literally been told by who I consider to be the best greatsword player in the world to use, is really just abuse sidelight and never commit to anything unless you know it's guaranteed. Some greatsword players, they like to kind of go for reads even when they don't know where the opponent's going to dodge. If you watch someone like Use, he literally is just using sidelight and taking that chip damage every time. It's only 8 damage with the Jaeun on the Tezca, but still, Over time, that's going to rack up, and you literally can spot dodge so fast out of it, and you stay on the ground, so you only get your dodge back faster. Another very useful tip when it comes to Greatsword offstage is that if you Sair your opponent into the wall at later health, depending on the angle, you either can get Dare True, like in this clip, or you could do Sair into Sair. Two really big tips I have on Lance, both revolve around it being offstage. The fact that I see barely any Lance players utilizing the fact that you can take away the startup frames completely and basically have your Sairs and Dares hitting stacked and extremely quick when you time them correctly from doing them on the wall. Alongside it is actually going to be about ground pound. I bet a lot of you have actually seen how useful and how much more popular it's become to use Lance ground pound. The most infamous one, if you will, is actually Sandstorm versus Stingray at BCX 2022, when Stingray just absolutely obliterated him with a ground pound. So next time you play Lance, try utilizing those Dares and Sairs, and once you get them off stage and kind of needing to recover, forcing their options, go for that ground pound and their stock in like light orange. KATARS, I'll say it, Dare is just absolutely unreal right now. It's a very fast move, and honestly, it's kind of hard to punish. To say you catch your opponent when you're kind of using Dare as an approach tool and they end up burning their dodge, whether it be in the air or on the ground, you're going to be guaranteed some sort of follow-up, which would look like this. And then from there, you know, you've kind of built your momentum and you can just be all over them, which KATARS are super good at. Someone who actually puts this into their play very, very well is GREATSWORD. If you don't know him, he's like the only Lin Fei player on planet Earth, and he's an absolute monster right now. On Scythe, it's super important that you know when you can do your Dare wall combos. Now, there's 3 versions of this that I normally see. Of course, you have Dare into Dare, Dare into ground pound, and then the third one, which I've seen used more recently, is doing a Dare and then a weapon throw. All of these could be great options to confirm a kill off the side, and it actually gives Scythe some true combos. Orb has a very solid balance when it comes to offense and defense. Defense being the ability to wall off with moves like Sair and Dare, and get away with really safe things like recovery and nair, right? When you're looking to punish your opponent, there are so many guaranteed strings that Orb has. It's absolutely nuts right now. But a few key things to know are mastering like the distance and position setup of something like D-Light, because based on the positioning, you can get something like this. Also, if you do catch a nair, they did add stun to the move a while ago now, but you hit a nair, you're going to guaranteed have that Sair after. Again, my best recommendation is just to kind of go in training mode and sort of freestyle with the weapon a little bit, and you'll find things that are very low frames all around the board. That'll be it for the video though, so if you liked it, make sure, of course, to subscribe and like the video, and comment if you think of any other tips or you have any comments on the tips themselves. Appreciate it, guys. Peace.